Hello friends, this particular video I'm going to deal with Django REST Framework. Along with that, how can I create custom user of type professor, student or even admin. In a real life application, a project is going to have user of different types, and along with that these users will also have different roles or privileges. This particular video I'm going to talk about the user registration process, and my next video onward I will show you how you can customize the users based on their role-based access control. That is how you are authorizing the privilege of the user. In this particular video I'm going to talk about the authentication part, authentication of the user. If you want to customize your user, then you have to give a call to abstract user. With the help of abstract user you can create different type of users. Like for example, I have created one list that contains tuples, and these tuples has got two elements. So why am I doing this? So that I can come up with different type of users. And how this different type of users will be implemented? Look at this particular line. As I said, using abstract user you will be able to customize the user. So I'm customizing my user model by introducing a new attribute called role, and this role will be based on choices that this particular list provides. So here I have got three different type of users: admin, professor and user. These are the corresponding variables, and here are these variables defined with respective value. So if someone opt for professor, in my database the word professor will be stored, this particular word will be stored. And if you are creating a template in the form of React or HTML, you are going to generate a drop down. Choice means HTML select option, and in that select option you are going to showcase, you are going to show as a drop down item, drop down text is the following word that is written in first letter with uppercase. But actually when you are going to choose one of the item from the drop down, like for example if I choose the professor, in my database this professor is mapped with this variable, so eventually this word that is in lowercase will be saved in my model, in my database table. Okay, so this is an attribute which I'm going to customize. Along with that, first name, last name, this will be there. I'm going to use email as a process of login. By default it is going to be username, but I want to customize my model so that email will be used as a default for login, and for that reason we have to use email as a username field rather than username. In the required field list, these are the attributes that are going to be implemented if you are going to create super user using Python manage.py create super user. Then these following attribute will be taken as input. Okay, so that's how I have created my model, and this model I'm going to set for my project. For that reason, in your project, in your settings.py, if you look over here, I have mentioned who is going to be my user model. So for that reason, auth_user_model, I am taking to the particular app called account app, and inside that I have created the class called user. This is the user that what I am plotting. So my application is going to use the following one as the default user model. As I said that in my application I am also going to perform authentication, so for that reason I'm going to use JWT. So JWT will be implemented with the help of token, and for that reason what I'm going to do over here is I have mentioned the REST framework, that which one I'm going to use as default authentication class, and I have created one authentication class which I will show you. Inside my app, that's account app, there is a file called authentication. Right over here I have defined the JWT, and this JWT customization, if you come over here, I have been able to customize my JWT with the help of BaseAuthentication that is provided by REST framework. So let's get into the process one by one. So since I'm going to use JWT, which is based on token, I need to store that token, and for that reason I've created one more model called user token. So this user token is going to store the token of which user. So for that reason I have gone for foreign key. The foreign key is based on the following model called user. So that means whenever a user logs in, the corresponding user email ID or the corresponding user username will be tracked with the help of the token, and that's the reason why the foreign key I have introduced. That means each token that will be saved inside my model called user token will belong to at least one user present in this particular user model. And for that reason I in order to get the detail of the user, I have used the relative name over here. Whatever name you feel like, you can use it. So with the help of related name, I can get the information of user as well. So this is where the token will be getting saved, and the following date and time will be there. So these two model I will be using for the time of user registration and login. So let's get into it, and I already said that I will be using JWT Authentication class, which I have created over here for the purpose of JWT Authentication. So let's start one by one. So at first what I will do is that let me take you to the URL. Here it is, the URL. So in my Postman I will be typing /register. Well, before that let me take you to my base project URL. Here it is. So I will be providing accounts, and that will take me to the URL right over here. So the route would be localhost /account/ followed by suppose register. So let me take you to the Postman right over here, and let me open my save route, and this is the route that I'm going to use it. So look over here what the route is. That is localhost /account/register/, and that is what you saw just now right over here. So /account, so /account is coming from my project URL that takes me to the app URL register. Okay, that's great. Now I'm going to use DRF, so for that reason I will be using class base view, CBV. So this register API view is actually a class based view. Now you cannot directly call a class based view inside your URL pattern, because browser will expect it in the form of HTTP request rather than a class, right? So for that reason you have to convert your class based view into HTTP. So for that reason, as underscore view, the following function you need to call it. What this is going to do is that it will like convert internally this class based view into a HTTP function based view. Okay, that is going to happen behind the scene. So you just need to call as underscore view, that's it. So now let's go to the definition of each of these class based views. So first is register API view. So let me land over here, and here it is, register API view. Now as I said that I will be using Postman for sending data because this is a Django REST framework. So the very first thing that you need to do is you have to inherit the system defined class called app view. Now once you do this, what the benefit you are going to get? App view is going to provide us following attribute, that is request underscore data. Request underscore data means this particular data which I am going to send from my front end will be request underscore data. Who is the user? For that information is kept under request underscore user. There are authentication classes, there are permission classes and method like get, post, which have been provided by default. From this particular base class called API view, everything will come inside this derived class called register API view. Okay, I've just given register API view by that name I'm saving. So there are basically 4 classes I have created: register for registration of the user, for login, to see the detail of the user, and to log out. In this particular video I will cover all the 4 part, so that it might take a bit of time, but in one video you will be able to see the entire thing. Okay, so let me again come over here. So just imagine localhost 1000/account/register. If this is the route I've given, and this is the registration taking place, right? So since the registration is taking place, there will be no token involved. Token will come only after user has successfully logged in. But since in my settings.py I have mentioned that each REST framework, each DRF that comes in, you should always go and check whether JWT authentication is implemented or not, irrespective of whichever endpoint it is. It can be a login, it can be a register. So this is like a default behavior what has been set over here, but it's very obvious when I will go for a login or for registration, at that point of time I don't have any token. So for that reason, if you look over here, what I've done is I have overridden the user authentication class as blank. So that means even if the default is to go and verify JWT authentication, but my authentication class I have nullified in context to this particular endpoint. That means whenever user provide the following endpoint, following object, and will hit the send button, the request very obviously will go to the URL, and from there it is going to map this class based view which has been converted to HTTP route. It will come right over here, and what I'm doing, I am inheriting my app view. That is absolutely fine, which you have to do it. And now I'm nullifying the authentication class. That means JWT authentication will not be applied for this particular endpoint. I'm talking about specifically this particular endpoint, that is this particular class based view. Okay, great. Now what about the permission? If you see over here, I also have got for is authentication permission, is authenticated permission, and here I'm saying don't check any permission, allow every user who wants to get in, because after all this is a registration process. So in the time of registration, of course there will be no permission required. So for that reason, permission underscore class I have gone for allow any, and it is coming from REST underscore framework permission, which is allow. Now always keep it in mind, these two are system defined terms. You have to use this reference just like the way they are. Don't change these references. Okay, as I said that this particular class based view is going to inherit app view, which will provide me system defined method in the form of get and post. So for that reason, def post, which you are seeing right over here, is coming by default. Okay, so that means when I will be hitting this particular send button, automatically this entire data in the form of a request is going from the postman to the backend, right? So I need to accept that request, and the type of HTTP route is post. So for that reason, I have written over here that of type post, and I'm sending the object. I need to accept that object, and for that reason I have got this parameter called request. Now hold a second. Had this been a function based view, this request would have been of type HTTP request, but by dear friend, we are working on DRF, so there is no such template. So for that reason, this request type is specifically going to be REST framework request type. Okay, even though if I did not write this, still it would work because of Python type inference, but still I prefer to write it so that you know how it differentiate between a class based view with that of function based view. Okay, that is great. So we got the object coming from the postman right over here. This data is going to be come and get stored inside this request. That's really good. So from this request, I'm picking up all the information that is there, and I'm going to print that in my terminal. So if I click the terminal, you will see the data will be right over here. Okay. Now I'm going to perform some verification of the existing data. That means the email which I have given, this email which I have given, this username, first name, last name, password, these are all based on my model. So let me show you once again my model. If I expand that user, so you will see that these are all mapped with that model. See over here, email is there, email is over here, first name is over here, last name is over here, username will come automatically. So whatever username you want, you can give it. That's there. As you can see over here, I have written username, so that's under required field. Password confirmed. This particular attribute which I have written over here is something I'm going to provide from my side, even though if you see in your model that password confirm is not written. Nothing to worry, because password confirm will not be stored in the actual model. I will come to that part. Okay, we'll see how we are handling that portion. And the role is very much important. That is already right over here. So this is what you need to ensure, right? So as we saw, password confirm is not in my model, right? So now let's come to my view, and once I reach over here, what are the thing first I'm doing? Please go and check. I'm checking whether the email which I provided, does it match with the existing email. In that case, it will say email already exists. So if I click now, by this particular name, already record is there in my table. Okay, so let me show you that. Let me bring you over here, and let's come to the user. Where is my user? Let me show you account, course, enroll. Yeah, here it is. Look over here, as you can see at the last column, Suzanne@gmail is already there, been registered, right? So if I try to resave it again, very obviously that should not work, and that's the reason why I'm saying email already exists should come. So let me try to save it again. Let me reduce the width. Yeah. So if I try to save it again, it will say email already exists coming from this particular line. That's great. Okay, now if I change the email, but if I keep the username, that also need to be verified now. So let's change the email. I'm changing it to 1, and this was the username which is already there. So if I click now, email, this is a new email, but the username is same. See, username already exists, so that also need to be verified. Okay, it's need to be verified. What about password? Yes, your password and confirm password both has to be same, but if they are different, then it will say email already exists. Okay, fine, let me put 1 over here, and now if I click it, now it will say username already exists. Yeah, that is fine. I will remove the 1 2 3, and now let's click, and now it say password do not match. All right, so this email is new, this username is new, but the password, they are not matching. So that's the reason why this exception got fired. Okay, so these are the few validation which I have done with the help of the ORM filter. Okay, now what about the rest of the other validations? That also can be done. At the same time, I need to save my data, and in order to save the data, what I'll be doing, I have created the serializer. So let me take you to the serializer, and over here I have got user serializer, which is inheriting the model serializer, because you are passing a JSON object. So this is a JSON object that need to be converted to Python native dictionary. So serialization and deserialization is required. So now you are passing an object which I need to convert into Python native dictionary. So for that reason, I need to give a call to serialize, and I'm going to pass the data that I have received in the form of user into my serializer. So let me take you to this particular class, and as we know, the serializer always inherit from the model serializer. That's what I have done right over here. So as I said that I don't have any field called password_confirm in my actual model, so for that reason I have to introduce this particular field called password_confirm inside my serializer. So serializer is going to receive the data, serializer.char field. Previously, if I talk about the model, they were of different type followed by char field. So the same thing is written over here. But look over here, it is saying write only. What does this attribute means write only? It means that you are sending data from Postman to the backend. Perfectly fine. As you are sending, you are passing the password confirm. But this is a post request, right? Now there will be get request also. So what happens in case of get request? You're going to extract the data from the table and going to send it to the front end. Now of course we don't want that password also should be shown at the front end, right? Same thing is what write only does. How do you prevent the password coming in at the front end? So when a get request has been called, you don't want password to be forwarded. Same goes confirm password or password, you don't want to forward it to the front end when a get request has been done. So for that reason, here I am mentioning for the confirm password, which is an extra attribute which I am adding just for the purpose of verification. This is not going to be saved in my table. This is for the UI part, just to check whether the password and confirm password both are same or not. Password confirm, we are not going to save it in our model. Just for the sake of checking, I'm doing it. So what I will be saving by default is password only, and neither confirm password nor password I want to send it back when the get request has been forwarded, right? So for that reason, extra underscore keyword args is used to prevent the password being sent back to the front end when a get request will be called. Don't worry, in my class based view I have one get request over here, like this one, user app. So this is a get request. So this will you will see that it is in the front end. You will see that the password is not been shown, and that been prevented because of this extra underscore keyword args. Okay, that's great, isn't it? So you are going to send the data to my serializer, and the serializer will perform the basic validation. Just a second. So inside the serializer, I'm doing some extra validation right over here. As you can see, I'm checking the email, whether the email, this is just a formality and it's nothing like that, just to show you that you can perform validation on the respective field, provided you just add this validate underscore, this particular word you have to add along with the attribute on which you want to perform. So this is one sample validation for email. Username, I just check the length over here, and same goes for password. It should be of minimum length 8, and it should have uppercase lowercase combination, which in fact I do have over here. As you can see, the password has got QWERTY@1, Q is in uppercase, lowercase followed by a symbol. I'm maintaining that as a formality based on this restrictions. And now in case if you want to check the password confirm password both are same or not, which I have already done at the beginning, so this you may skip this one. Now this comes to a very important part, that is create. Okay, before I come to create, let me show you one more thing. If every validation is been executed successfully and there is no error, so once the user you have forwarded the data to the user serializer, it does, and this is a reference to the user serializer. The serializer, after doing the validation, you are just checking whether all the validation has successfully passed, there is no exception been generated, then you are going to save the data, right? So when you're writing serialize.save, you're basically trying to save the new object, this user which you are passing from the front end, that's what you are trying to save. But before you fire the save option, system automatically will fire one more function that is called create. The create will be executed first, followed by save. Okay, so what does this create means? And look over here, these are all system defined functions. You don't need to call them, they will be called automatically. So when you are calling serialize.save, create will be called because it has to perform a very important task. So now try to understand what task is performing. So it has a validate data over here. So from this validate data, it's actually going to receive all the input. Okay, so and it is again invoked by this particular function serializer.save, who is going to invoke this create function with the following parameter. Since we are inside the class, so we always have a self as a first parameter that refers to the current instance. So what this create function is going to do? Well, first it is going to remove the confirm password, because I told you the confirm password, a password confirm, is just meant for the UI part. user interface to check whether both are same or not. We are not going to save it in the actual table, so I need to remove that. Okay, fine, I removed it. Second, why am I removing the password even? Am I not going to save that in the model? Well, you are going to save it, undoubtedly you are going to save it, but you are not going to save the raw password, right? If you see I want to show you my model over here, I mean database over here. So if you see, if you come to the user, look over here, these are all encrypted password. So how is this encryption going to happen? Well, at first you need to remove the raw password given by the user and save the raw password inside this variable. So that means the QWERTY@1 which I have provided will be saved inside this particular variable, inside this particular attribute, and it's been removed from the actual instance, you can say so, or the object or the dictionary, whatever you call it. And now you are going to create one new instance based on the validated data. So validated data will not have your password confirmed, neither it will have a password. So it's just going to create one single instance. It is not yet has saved the data. Now inside this instance I am going to encrypt my password with the help of set password. So set password does the encryption, and which password it will encrypt? The password which I have given over here, that is going to be encrypted. Once the encryption has happened, now you are going to save the actual data inside my model, and then return that information, and that information is finally being saved by the serializer, and the record actually gets stored. And finally what you are doing, you are going to send it as a response. Remember, this is not the HTTP response, rather this is a REST framework response. Just like the way we have got request, so we have got response. Had this been function based view, it would have been HTTP response. So that response is been forwarded back to the postman, and we are getting the data in the form of serialize.data. So once we print this, or in the postman is going to show you what the data it has successfully able to parse. So let's come over here and let's go for a new student. So I'm going to save a new student called, suppose what should be the student name? Give any name, suppose Tim. Oh, it is the email ID, so I'm writing tim@gmail.com. username, let it be tim123. So first name is Tim in uppercase, and the last name is Tim Doe, and the password and both are same. Role has also been student. So now if I click on this, and before I fire this, let's come to my database once again. Let's reload it just to show you that we have got 4 users, the last one ID being 5. So now let's click on this, and as I do that, now you see, you get to see the object, and in this object this is a serialized.data which has been shown over here as a response. That's what you are seeing, but in this you are not seeing the password, because password has been removed. I mean, password cannot be sent back to the confirmed password was removed, rather password cannot be sent back in the form of get request, because of the prevention that we have taken inside the serializer in the form of extra underscore keywords. We have said that password should be only read only. You can send the password through postman, but you will not get the password from server. That's what it has done. And finally this new object or new student got generated. So now if I come over here and if I reload this, I'm going to see a new instance over here, and that is the following instance. The password is now encrypted, and the username is tim1, and the email ID is tim@gmail. So with this portion getting executed, finally, and one more thing, we have got the role as student over here. Okay, so we have got 3 students and 2 professor. So we saw over here that how we are passing this role. Well, if it would have been React, then we have been written this in the form of a drop down, or we can have a separate route, where one route is for like the registration for the student, another route can be for the registration of the professor, and then we will hard code the data based on the individual route. We can pass it like this fashion also. So finally we saw over here that how with the help of serializer we have been able to convert my JSON object into Python dictionary, and eventually it is getting saved inside my model, and this has all been done by the model serializer. And with that we come to an end of the registration of the user based on class based view. Okay, Fine. Now comes to the next function, that is called login API. So let me again get back to the URL right over here. So here is my URL and this is the login. So this is again a class based view, need to be converted into a function based view. Well, I could have splitted this into different 4 videos, but I thought that let's keep it in one video, okay, so that you see it as a whole. And in my next video I will be going for authorization, which is very important. So now let's go for the login. So we're converting it to the function, right? So let's come to the login right over here. Now again I'm saying login. After login we will be getting token, not before login. So for that reason we are allowing all the users, and we are nullifying the authentication which we have set inside this, because here we are supposed to verify the JWT token for every endpoint. So I want to prevent this. So for that reason what I have done is that I have nullified the facilities. Well, let me close this serializer right now. Okay, great. So here I have a table called user token, and if you see right now I have got one token over here. That's I suppose the user is already been logged in over here, that's token. So what I will do is that let me remove this token, so and then I can start afresh. So let me open it with DB browser, and let me come to the browse data, and let me come to the user token. This token which I have got, let me remove this particular token, and let's click over here. Let me click this delete token. Let's write the changes that this token has been removed. Let's close this folder also, and let's reload the tab and see there is no more token present right now. Okay, so this table will get the data once user has successfully logged in. So again I am sending a post request over here because I want to save my token in my table, and this will have the part of JWT. So with the help of JWT I will be generating my token. Great. So now let's come to my next route. So the registration route is over, and let me open my next route, that is login route. Here it is, login route. Yes. So let me reduce the width. So what I'm going to do over here, I have got few user as we saw in my table. So let me show you again. We have got few user. So I have got John, who is a student. I have got Peter, who is a professor. So let me try to log in first with the Peter, then I will log in with as student with John. Okay, so let's come over here. So here is my Peter, here is my password given. Okay, so once I when I click on this button, so look over here, I'm passing raw JSON, right? So this JSON will be received by the, okay, I have to show you the URL also. The project URL is account, the app URL is login, right? Okay, that's great. So the data will come inside my request. So I will be sending what I'm sending email, I'm sending password. So I'm extracting the email and password, I'm storing inside these variables. Now I'm going to perform the checking that whether this email actually exists or not. If it does, then pick up the user, and in case if it does not, then say invalid credential. So let's try to run with the invalid credential. The actual email ID is Peter, and I don't have any email ID called Peter1. So this was going to return me invalid credential, as you can see right over here. Great. Now let's come with the wrong password. So I'm giving the correct email ID, but I am ending with 2, which is my wrong password. So it must show me invalid password. So that's where this is working perfectly fine. Now I am going to give my valid email and valid password. In that case, what happens, the user I will receive over here. Now I'm going to call the method who will generate token. Okay, so this is the method that is going to generate token. So create access token. So I have this particular method. Where it is present inside this app. I've created one file called authentication. Let me take you to that file, and here it is, and I have a simple function called create access token, and this is where the token will be generated. So let's come back to the, let me keep this as a separate window so it will be easy for you to see. So that means I'm going to send this user. This is an instance of the user model class. So here the model instance comes in. I'm going to create a payload. Well, I already have a JWT video in my channel, so go and check that one. Here I'm just giving a brief. So I'm going to generate the payload. So what payload I'm going to do it? Look over here, I'm sending my email and a password. That is fine, and already it has been verified. So once you verify that, I will be getting user ID, because that's how my inside my table we have got user ID, user name, user role. All these things have been stored inside my password. I'm creating the access token for a validity of 24 hours. So one single day the access token will be stored or will be active, because we know access token is of shorter duration. And we are going to pick up the secret key from my environment file, and we are going to convert this into we are going to encode into a JWT. So here we have given a call to JWT. As you can see, the JWT package has been used over here. So JWT.encode is going to pass 3 parameters. First, the payload, which is this. Second is the secret key that is coming from the environment, and we are going to use the hashing algorithm right over here. So once this encryption has been done, it will forward me the access token. In the same way, I will also create the refresh token. So this will bring me right over here. In the same fashion, I'm going to get the refresh token, and it is going to go for a separate secret key. And once the encode has been done, the refresh token is also been written over here. Now I'm going to save the refresh token in my model. So I have, let me close this file right now. So let me expand my, let me show the model over here. So let me split the screen right over here. So I have a model called user token. Let me close this. Here is my model called user token. In this model, I'm going to create a new instance where I'm going to pass the user. That means the user who is trying to log in. It can be a professor, it can be a student. That user information I'm going to store over here. That means this is my foreign key. As we know that in case of foreign key, although the attribute name is called user, but this will be actually stored in my model as user underscore ID. So whatever the ID that particular user hold, which will be auto generated, that ID will be considered as a foreign key right over here. That's how it stores. The token will be holding the refresh token, which I have got over here, and it is going to be valid for 7 days, and that's how the user token will be instantiated, right? So once the instantiation has been done, now I'm going to do what? I'm going to send the response. So for that reason, you are sending the response. Remember, this is not HTTP response. This is REST framework response. So I've created the REST framework, and I'm going to pass it to the front end, and it will be saved in the cookie. And right now I'm using Postman. So inside my Postman, this particular refresh token will be saved. That means inside my Postman, you will find over here. Let me expand this. Right now over here we don't have any cookie, but once it has been saved, here you will be find the cookie will come in picture. Well, this is not a valid cookie. This cookie will be replaced. Don't worry about that. With the new cookie that will be generated, I mean the refresh token will generate, that will be saved over here in my cookie of my Postman. In case of front end, it will be saved in the cookie of your browser. And I'm going to send the response data, both access and refresh token, to the front end, so my Postman can view it. Okay, so now let's run the code, and my actual email ID is this, my password is this, absolutely fine. Let's go to the body. Right now the body is invalid. Let me fire. Now I'm going to guess the access token and refresh token. Great. Let's see over here, the refresh token is CDA, and that what got stored inside the cookie. If I come over here, it's a CDA getting stored over here. So my cookie refresh token has been set inside my cookie. Okay, that's great. So that shows that my user login is working very, very perfectly, and it is successfully able to generate access token and refresh token, right? Okay, that's how the login part gets done. Now we are in the third class based view, where I'm going to check who the user who has logged in, what information can I get. Okay, remember it has generated access token, and inside the access token we saw in the payload that is going to hold the user ID. So if I pass the user ID, I will get the entire information of the user that is actually present. Okay, so now we are going to fire user app view. So that is going to come from this particular endpoint. So again, localhost :8000/account. Account is my project URL. and my app URL is called user, and that's going to give a call to this particular route, and it's very straightforward route. And this route is the first time you are getting into the actual authentication class. So now you are saying that you authenticate my token. So in case of login, we have generate refresh token, access token, and in case of accessing a protected route, so this route is actually a protected route, you need to pass the bearer with the access token. So that will be done by JWT authentication. So JWT authentication class is present inside my app, inside the file authentication right over here. So let me expand this. This is the class who will be checking the whether the header has got authorization followed by bearer and followed by the token. Okay, that's really great. So once we have done that, that will be the basis of authentication. Now we are going to see about the authorization. So who is allowed to authenticate? I mean, who is allowed to enter? What is the permission? Well, first of all, you have to log in successfully. That is been coming from the user or is authenticated from the REST framework. That is the first requirement. The second requirement is the user who is authentication, either that will be a user or that will be a student. Either of these two has to be, okay, because we are writing the permission class. So inside the permission class, whatever permission classes we are going to write, all has to be true. So first the user has to validate successfully, and the second important thing, that means the authentication part has to be correct, username should be correct, password should be correct, followed by the token. The second one is that the particular user, the role of the user or the authorization, the user should be authorized either as a professor or as a student. So where from this will come? Well, I have created one file called permission. So let me show you this file. Here is my permission. I have created 3 custom permission. These are all custom permission. In my next video I will be talking about is professor, is student. Right now I'm talking about this custom permission that is called is professor or student. When you are going to create a custom permission using the base permission class, you get more flexibilities. Okay, so I have created base, I want to create a custom permission with the help of base permission. So I have given the name as is professor or student. That means the user who is going to log in, the request user, that means I will be sending the object from the parameter through the postman. That should be a user. The role of that user should be either professor or student. Remember, this role is coming from my model, right? This model has got either professor or, so this is either going to be a professor or student. So that's what it's mapping. That's what the authentication is mapping. Okay, so it is mapping, either it has to be this, then only it is going to allow. Great. So that's what my view is saying now. So once it is correct, then I will be passing to my get. But before that, we have to check what is this JWT authentication classes. So how we are going to send the data? Let me show you to the postman first. Okay, here also I have got another route. So let's come to the route that is called account route. This is the route that I will be using. Account route. See, account is coming from the project and this is coming from my app. So I have to go to my header. I have to write this authorization. Bearer, be careful about the spelling, and be in uppercase, give one blank space, and this is going to be the token. So where from I will get the token? Just now we have logged in, so copy this access token from this login, copy this and paste it over here. Be careful, there should not be any extra space at the end. Well, at the beginning there is one space, so this is at the 0 index, this is at the 1 index. That's how the thing is been going to represent. Okay, so now let's see how my JWT authentication is working. So this is again a custom JWT authentication I am doing, which is the reason why I am inheriting base authentication coming from REST framework. So this is the class which is a base class who will be able to, you will be able to customize. JWT will provide you, base authentication will provide you system defined function called authenticate. So this is a system defined function. This function is a system defined function, authenticate. So whatever information I'm sending this header. Okay, apart from header I don't have anything to send. In my body I don't have anything to send. I will just send this, because remember, this is going to have all the information that got created with the help of the payload. Let me take you once again. In my access token we pass on this user ID, so I will be able to decode now, right? So authentication function which is system defined is been called. It is going to take the header. It is going to take the header that is coming from the postman. So this header I'm talking about is going to receive that. It's going to split the header. So the request that I have received is going to split, and after splitting it will create this reference. So how many part will be there? There will be 2 part. The 0 is the bearer and the access token. 0 is the bearer and the access token is this. So the length will be exactly 2. If the length is not 2, then definitely there is some issue. Then we will stop right over here. Okay, so it's going to stop right over here. Now what is there at the 0th index? Whatever case I have given, I convert into lowercase. I have given it in uppercase, B in uppercase, rest of the word in lowercase. So this is the 0th index. So I'm going to convert that and see whether the word binary, in the binary format, it's a byte format, the word bearer is there or not. Yes, if the word bearer is there, then it's perfectly fine. If not, then again send authentication failed. Okay, great, right? So let me show you this. Suppose I'm sending some other word. Suppose I'm writing apple and let me click over here. The moment I will do that, see, authorization header must start with bearer. So that's where the word is coming from, this line is coming from. So you cannot write apple over here. So it has to be what? It has to be bearer. Great. So once I have given the bearer, now you come to the try catch block. Yes, now you're going to pick up the, what you are going to do? You are going to pick up the token, and this token will be decoded. This token will be decoded by JWT. So what is the index position? Index position is 1. So this was the 0 position, 1 space is there, just 1. Then this is the index position 1. So that will be picked up and it will be decoded by the format of UTF-8 done by JWT. After decoding, I will get the raw token. Now this token, now I will pass to my function decode underscore access token, because I need to get the ID that is there in my payload, right? The payload created the ID that I need, because that ID will give me the user information. So from here it is directly coming to my function decode underscore access token, and I'm passing what I'm passing the token. So that token gets stored inside this, so it is going to pass the token. So now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to perform decoding. So again, in my environment variable you have to set the secret key, and let me show you that also. In my environment variable I've just got this secret key and the refresh key. That is what it is extracting. It is extracting from the OS environment, and for that reason you have to give a call to load underscore .env so that it can read the environment file. So decode will pass the token that has received secret key, the hashing algorithm is sent. After that I'm going to get the payload. After decoding I will get the payload back which was there through the access token. That payload is what I'm returning. So this payload will now come and will get stored right over here. Okay, I remember inside the payload I will have a field called user ID, because inside my access token I have written this user ID field, this particular key. So I will get that right over here. So that from this I'm getting the actual ID. Now I'm giving a call to my model and perform the ORM to get the actual data back. I'm getting the actual data back, and that is this particular user. That's what I'm getting. So once I have this particular user, definitely the user will be there. In case if it is not there, then it will say user not found, but of course user will be there. That user I'm going to return. So once I'm returning this user from my JWT Authentication class, this user is going to be finally stored where? Finally stored inside my authentication. This particular line will store the data, and that user is now going to be passed inside this request automatically. Just imagine. So I got the user inside this parameter. As the reason why I'm writing again request.user. So this request.user will give me what? It will give me the actual user details, and that user details again I'm forwarding it for user serializer. Why? Because it is in the form of Python. It's like it is coming from the database table. So I'm going to again I'm sending it to my serializer, so it can be converted back into the format so that the front end can read the data, because I have to send the data to my front end who is the postman. So that conversion has taken place over here, and now I'm going to create this response which will be forwarded. So in my response, inside the serialize, whatever reference you have written, that will be dot data will give you the actual user information. Inside the user information, role is there. I can extract the user dot role. From user I can get extra role. I can check whether the user is a professor or not. It will be true. If whether Peter is a professor, because I'm logging through what? I'm logging through Peter, right? I logged in through Peter, so Peter is a professor. So as we saw in my model, let me show you even in the model once again. So let's come over here. The Peter is actually a professor, Peter Parker, who is a professor. So that's what I will be getting, and this will give me true. It's not a student, it will be false. It's not admin, it will be false. So this is what I'm going to get in my postman. Oh my god. I know this video is going to be pretty long. So now I'm going to fire this, and as I click on this, I'm going to get the whole response. Oh god, it looks really great, isn't it? This is the user serial data is giving me the entire information. And look, this is what I was saying. I was giving a call to get, but did I receive the password? No, I will not receive the password, because in serializer I have set password to be read only. I have set password to be read only, so for that it will not come, and even confirm password is also read only. So neither password nor confirm password will actually come over here. So this is what's my protected route. So we got finally the information, and you see over here, since Peter is a professor, that's the reason it's true. Rest of the attribute are false. So that's how we are checking this one. So I believe this is now clear. This is a protected route, and the last is the logout. So this is again going to be a protected route. So let's come to my logout. So here is my logout route. At the beginning, the project level would be account, and then we are going to log out. So again the same thing. First it will take the JWT token. It will be is protected. Here also I can go for either whether it's a professor or a student. That also I can do it. I didn't do it. It's up to you. You can add that as well. Okay. So JWT token will again forward. So let's come to my last route. So let me come over here, and I have already saved all these things so that it doesn't take time. Here it is. So this is the route which I have got. Account is my project, logout is my app, and let's come to my authentication header. So I will copy this access token. So that's the reason I have saved the access token for 24 hours so that it doesn't expire. Be careful while copying the access token. Don't copy any extra characters. Let's come over here. This is my logout. So let's come over here. Let me write this and let me paste it over here. So here also the same thing. It is going to give a call to JWT authentication. So this will bring me to authentication. Here the decrypt will take place, and from here it will again give a call to this. It will return me the user that will be passed to my view. Is authentication. The user has to be authenticated, of course, because in user authentication here is the user need to be authenticated, otherwise nothing is going to work. Perfect. And then that information, that means this authentication, this return, once we have done the decode, this decode is been returned back over here, and then we are returning this user. So this user return will finally be stored inside this request. And now what we are going to do is that we are checking that whether request token or cookies has got refresh token. Yes, in my cookies I do have the request token. As you can see right over here, in my cookies the refresh token is there. The refresh token is there in my cookies. So what we want to do is that should not be there, isn't it? So refresh token is there. If not request and the refresh token is missing, that we are checking. And now what we are going to do is that the refresh token is also present in my model user token, which we saw, right? So let me show you once again. So let's come to my model. Let's come to my user token. So this token is going to have the refresh token over here. So if you see, this is my refresh token. So as you can see, CDA, that's the refresh token which is showing. And in fact we also saw over here the refresh token over here was CDA. So I need to delete that, right? That's what it is saying, that you need to filter, and then once you get that, you go for delete, so that the token gets deleted from my model. And I have to delete my cookie also. I need to delete my cookie also. So refresh token should not be there in my cookie anymore. And I need to send a response that yes, the deletion has been successful, and it is status is 200. And this is, remember, this is not the HTTP request, this is the Django REST Framework request, and that's what I'm going to send to the front end. So let me now click on this, and let's come over here. So everything is fine. So if I go for some wrong character, suppose this is my access token, right? I copy the access token right over here. So JW is the last character. Suppose if I intentionally add one more Q over here, so this access token nullified, so it will say that this is the invalid access token. Great, so it's working perfectly fine. So I remove the extra Q, and now if I click on this, and now see, it says that the access token is removed, I mean the object is removed, and see, cookies now don't have the refresh token anymore, because refresh token has been deleted from the cookies as well by virtue of this line. And we return the response, and the response says that yes, the user has been deleted. So the meaning of this is that if I go to my model now, I have deleted the data from my model. If I reload the tab, if I reload this token should not be there, and it is also not there. Oh my god, I know it took a good amount of time, but what we have covered in this particular video is that we have covered a very important section, that is how do you create custom user with the help of abstract user, where you are creating users of different types. We saw how to implement JWT, we saw how token is used, we also saw how to protect the routes which have been protected. We also saw what does the authentication, JWT authentication class is doing. We also saw how to generate payload, we saw how to decode the payload, and we also saw the refresh token as well, and remove the request token. And we also saw one class, custom permission, that is using the base permission, which we saw right over here. When we are login, at that point of time we are checking whether the user has the privilege or not, whether the user has to be of any one of the type. That what we saw right over here. You need to be either a professor or a student. We saw that. So if you go through this particular video, you thoroughly will understand the entire concept of JWT. And remember, inside my settings we are providing the default JWT as an authentication class. The permission class is by default the user is authenticated. That means whenever the user visits any protected route, the user has to be authenticated, and then along with the authentication we also implemented the authorization, whether the user has the authority or not. So authorization will be a detailed topic of my next video, where I'm going to talk about my course view set, which is going to be my model view set. And here we will see that the professor is able to create courses while the student is able to access the courses. Okay, that's where the authorization comes in picture. That will be the content of my next video, and in this particular video we all cover up. So JWT is done, and in my next video I will be focusing on these two custom authorization which I have created in context to Django REST framework. Okay, so that's all from this video presentation. See you soon. Bye bye.